You have a certain amount of money that you deal with. There's only so much you can do with it, and just making sure if there's stuff you want to accomplish, that you do that with your money with no regrets.
And so I really learned that I needed to broaden my amount of knowledge on certain topics to really benefit somebody's whole household.
So after you get them to a point where they got their budget tight, they got a little extra income, now we're going to turn them over to Andrew. And Andrew, they got a little money now. What can they do with that extra money now? Hey, I want to thank you all for tuning in to the next Conversations with Brent. I'm doing something I haven't done yet. 2 guests at once. But when you hear these dynamic young men speak, you'll know why I had to get them on both together. We have Fred Tudor III and Andrew Tudor. And yes, they're brothers. Let's just get it out the way. They're brothers. What's going on, fellas?
Not too much. Everything's
Doing very well. Doing very well.
So I've known you all since probably you all were what, 12, maybe somewhere around there?
Sounds about right.
Right.
Yeah, we ain't gonna ask your age now. We're just gonna say you passed that. You're a little past that age. And so, as you know, we're doing a financial series now, and the reason I had to have you both on at the same time, because I love not only when Black men are doing something positive, but when you get 2 brothers that come together and do something, I think that's truly unique. So Fred, we're gonna start with you and let us know what your part in this partnership is, please, sir, and what you bring to the table.
Okay. So my background, both of our backgrounds are in banking. But before that, and during that, I had a big interest in personal finance, and trying to figure out how to help people spend better. You have a certain amount of money that you deal with. There's only so much you can do with it, and just making sure if there's stuff you want to accomplish, that you do that with your money with no regrets. So my part in this, when I left the bank, I started doing some financial coaching on my own, which is just helping people create spending plans so they know where they're going, pay better attention to their money, but then also manage their debt so that they can erase that. And then that just helps accelerate their growth and their wealth. So my part of this, we kind of work together. My part is kind of help take a look at the spending currently and see how we can make it better.
Okay. And then Drew, your part is?
Yeah, so I have a background. We started in banking, and I took a 4-year stint where I got investment management license, insurance license, and then worked towards getting my certified financial planner's license this year. And so my part is really thinking long-term, investing for the future, setting up those systems, and also what does it look like to, build great retirement, great legacy, and pass down money to the next generation and hopefully the generation after that. And so we can really come together a lot of times to be, Fred is an expert when it comes to tactical money management, debt strategies, and what it looks like to give every dollar a job to do in your current budget. And on my end, I'm more long-term. We're dreaming it up. We're strategizing some of the things we want to do from the investment, insurance, legacy, and long-term space.
That's awesome. And let me ask you all this, because I remember when you all were first getting started in banking, because that was my background. And we've all worked at that one bank. We ain't even going to give them no pub because I don't like them. So we ain't even going to mention.
And they don't pay us anymore. They don't pay us anymore.
Not at all. But how do you feel that banking helped you? I tell people it's a great place to get a job in a bank. How do you all feel like it helped you in what you're doing now?
I think, and he'll be able to share some differences in where he went. For me, it helped when we're trying to figure out how to spend. We can touch a little bit on credit and what banks look at when they're trying to lend, or what the consumer needs to look like if they're wanting lending. But really what I got out of banking was seeing it doesn't matter what type of client it is, whether they make a lot of money, whether they don't make much money at all. There is really not many people know how to spend their money and keep track of their money. So like not necessarily from the bank, but just interacting with clients and just seeing how people spend and if they're spinning their wheels, trying to figure out a way to kind of help them get out of that. You'd be surprised, people with a lot of money, how much they know and how much they don't know. So on the banking aspect, I learned some, but really from the client perspective, I would say I learned a lot more.
Okay.
I would say there's two big things I learned. So I was really in one section of folks' financial lives, really the deposits and lending. And we would try to get into, business banking and wealth management and all these other places. But a lot of times those were silos. And I had clients that I served well as far as giving them loans and getting them access to loans. But their financial picture when it came to retirement, saving, money management was still off. And so I really learned that I needed to broaden my amount of knowledge on certain topics to really benefit somebody's whole household. The second thing I learned was that people are people. And before getting into that space, I hadn't had a lot of access and interactions with people who were affluent, with people who had multi-million-dollar businesses and had come from money or had built wealth. And just being able to sit there and talk to them, they're normal people. They have the same hopes and dreams and fears that we have. And so it really helped humanize folks that I might not have been comfortable having conversations with.
And I feel you on that. I remember when I started at the bank, I was a teller and worked my way to a branch manager. But there was a lady came in and she signed the X on her Social Security check. And I'm like, dang. And she put $5 in her savings till I hit that button to submit. And she had over $50,000 in her savings. It changed my whole perspective because you look at this thing, she has nothing, couldn't even write her name. And she had 50 stacks in the bank. And it's like, you never know.
Great habits.
When you think about that, Fred, what's maybe one thing people don't realize where they can gain some money? Because when we talked to Keisha, she talked about how she puts everything in a spreadsheet. But I think a lot of times we have more disposable income than we realize. And how do you help people find that extra money?
It's really about looking at it. And kind of how Keisha was speaking, she knows where all her money is. She tracks it. It doesn't matter how small or how big the dollar is. She's tracking where it's going. And that's a big deal because if you don't know where it's going, you really don't know how much you have. And then a lot of people at the end of the year, they'll look at their CPA or they'll look at somebody and say, I made so much money last year. I don't know where it went. So it's really about being proactive as opposed to reactive. Like if you can create a plan and then you can track to that plan, it really helps you know where it's going to really help you be able to say, okay, like I'm spending here. I really don't want to spend here. Like I want my money to go here. So it's finite in a sense, but you can maneuver where it goes to your benefit.
Okay, good deal. Excuse me. And so with that, what would be something, maybe just one step that you would say is the first step? If somebody says, hey, I want to work with you, but I don't know if I can, what's something you would tell them to let them know that, hey, you can deal with anybody? Like you said, working at the bank, you learn that people are people. So
do you mean like they don't, whatever we're charging, they don't have it, but what's some advice I would give?
Yes, sir.
I would say to know where your money's going, and come up with a plan. And a lot of people don't like the budget word, so people stop saying budget and they start saying spending plan. But it is what it is. And people have such a negative connotation about it, but it's really about giving your money a job. Like give every dollar a job. If your job doesn't have a purpose, or if you're not giving your dollar a job, that means your dollar is controlling you. So you really want to come up with a plan so that you know where your money's going. And if it's not going where you want it to go, come up with a plan to make sure it gets there, or react to make sure it gets to where you want it to go. So, I mean, it's so simple, And I get criticized for saying stuff is so simple, but step one is to know where your money is going. How much do I have coming in? All right, what do I absolutely have to pay every month? Know that. Then it's like, okay, what do I have left over? Where is that money going? Did I spend all this money out eating? Did I go shopping? Did I only want to spend $100 shopping this month and I spent $500? Like, just if you don't know where it went, then you really can't plan. So that's what I would say.
But I think when you talk about people don't like when you say it is that simple, I think it really is. It's just adjusting the mindset. And that's where we have a hard time, is adjusting the mindset. Because, when you think a budget being a bad word is like diet, people don't like hearing those words, but they necessary. So after you get them to a point where they got their budget tight, they got a little extra income, now we're going to turn them over to Andrew. And Andrew, they got a little money now. What can they do with that extra money now?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing you can do for somebody is change their mindset, is to give them a broader understanding of the impact those dollars can have, right? We are short-term creatures, right? Our wiring is the same wiring as it was when we lived in caves. And so we're worried about today, maybe tomorrow, but we're not worried about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. We're wired for solving our needs. And so when someone is going to give up today's need, right? I want to buy that thing. I want to spend it here. I want what I want. You have to give them something tangible that they're choosing over that need. And so very, very vivid goal setting, very, very vivid dreaming of, we're deciding not to take this third trip this year so that you can start this business in 4 years, right? You said it was important to you. You said it's your highest, best use. You're skilled at it. You love to do it, but you don't have the money to start that business. And so we need to be able to say, the reason I'm not going to Mexico with my bachelor party, even though it sounds like fun, is because I need to start that business in 2024. And that's what my plan is. And so, I don't think people save to just save. We save for things that we're passionate about on the other end. And so taking the time to figure out, what are those things? Is it family? Is it legacy? Is it comfort? Is it freedom? What is it? Because wealth building and, financial freedom isn't enough to make you give up today's things. And so once we identify the things we're saving for or sacrificing for, then we just choose a vehicle and a strategy that meets that need. And so if the goal is 5 years down the road, what's the best place to put money that we'll have access to it in 5 years, that it can grow over that time period, but that we don't risk maybe losing it all in year 4. And so then we start to be able to juggle the vehicle and the risk of a certain asset or account to the goal that we're actually solving for.
Okay. And so Fred had mentioned that the one thing is people not wanting to budget. What would, from your perspective, what's one thing that people are underserved? Is it insurance? Is it not having because we know Fred talked about a plan, but what is it that people are underserved in a lot of times that they miss out on?
Yeah, people are, most people are drastically underinsured, especially when it comes to the dollar amount of coverage and how affordable it typically is. Most people are drastically underserved and underinsured. But that goes to a different issue, which I mentioned before, is we're short-term gratification people. And that's not a shame. I think we try to shame people into saving money, which is not, that's not the way to do it. It's like, this is how you're wired. And now let's figure out how we overcome that. I'm wired that way too. Fred's wired that way too. So now that we know that, what are the things that we need to think about? So one of the things that I hear a lot when we're telling people to save money or defer gratification is tomorrow's not promised.
No, it's
right?
not.
That's something people say, hey, tomorrow's not, you can save all this money for my retirement, but tomorrow's not promised, right? I can buy that insurance, but tomorrow's not promised. And it's kind of like a scapegoat to get out of doing good long-term decision-making. And my rebuttal is always, tomorrow is promised for somebody you love. If you get hit by a bus, your husband or wife or children are still going to wake up tomorrow.
Yes.
And if you're providing for those people, or you want to provide for those people, let's make good decisions. So what holds people back is really, we're taught these adages and these survival mechanisms that make sense in certain areas. And there's nothing wrong with, if you come up in a certain area of town or in a certain era, not trusting people, the things that got you to success or where you are worked for that. But if new goal is generational wealth building, being able to provide for your family, being able to be comfortable and have financial peace, there's a different mentality and a different playbook. We have to unlearn some of that old stuff. So I'm really talking more mindset shift than actual investment accounts, because the mindset is what we can change. And the investment accounts, once we put them in there, they're going to do the work.
Well, I think that's so key. Like you said, it's the mindset. Most of us have read articles, watched many YouTube videos, everything, and we still have not made a shift. But I was reading an article in Success Magazine today, and the young lady was talking about personal development and, the Jim Rohns and all them. She said, but I can never just make that transition. And she said, I realized it was because none of them look like me. And she said, if you're not African-American, you don't understand, because my background, as the kids may say, my swag is different than yours, and you don't understand. So it's hard sometimes to take what you're saying from your background and put it to mine. And that's why I love what you all are doing. You all didn't grow up with silver spoons in your mouth. You weren't trust fund babies and all that. So you all had to figure some things out. And so I commend you all. Fred, what got you started, or what caused you to have this affinity or love for getting finances in order?
I would think it started in college. Accounting. I don't know the course, but I could tell you the professor, Fenimore. When we had to figure out interest and how interest was assessed on loans, and how, just paying it different would help save money. And then also learning compound interest. It stuck with me. Like, it started me to kind of want to uncover more and learn more about, okay, like this is how you can pay less money. This is how you can earn more money. Like, what are some other things that kind of go into that? And as I began to learn more and began to understand that I knew it, but a lot of people, especially I see in banking, a lot of people didn't know it. And this is clients and banking professionals, they just didn't know it. I felt like there was something I needed to do to kind of help teach it more.
Okay.
Because there's, and also from where we come from, a lot of people don't know it more so than people that do. And if I know it, why would I not? So that's kind of what got me started. Undergrad, Fenimore, doing the interest week in and week out. So
okay. And what about for you, Drew?
Yeah, I was on the other side of that. So we both went to Wittenberg. I barely made it through Fenimore class, but there was a gentleman who taught an investment class, and he didn't just have us read the book. He gave an assignment that said he gave each of us $20,000, and we had a list of maybe 30 stocks we could choose from.
Okay.
And if we wanted to make a trade, we would have to look up the price of the stock and email him, and he was our broker. And he would email us back a receipt, and we would keep track on this Yahoo account of our value. And the top 3 people in the class got an A on the exam and didn't have to take it. And so I remember I spent so much time researching those stocks. Funny story, it was 2009, maybe 2010. I shorted Netflix because at the time I was like, they can't go above $100 a share. Like, they had just been going crazy. And I read a couple articles that said they were trying to go into Canada. And Canada didn't watch TV the way we did because they were outdoors people. I said, they're about to flop. And I bet against Netflix for the first half of the semester. And I lost about $5,000 in a month.
Wow.
And then I spent the next 3-4 months doing small trades and buying things, and I came in second. And it had been such a, he told me at the end, you made more trades than anybody, and you would ask me more questions than anybody. And most people just bought a stock and left it for the year. But I mean, I was really tactical. So that's what got me into loving making those trades. And it was really, really helpful looking back that he wasn't a professor. He was running his own advisory business at the time. And so he gave us real life stuff.
Funny story. I took that same class. And the same assignment, the first day I shorted something too. It went all the way down. I mean, like, it didn't go down, but it went out, like, my money went all the way down. And so, like, me and the professor, like, I didn't win, but me and him were so cool after that because I lost all my money. He was like, man, like, I would have done the same thing. And it was just like, yeah, well, I had fun with it. I didn't give up because I wanted to win, but shorted first day. I don't even think I left the class. I'm like, hey, can I short this right now? Like,
can I do that right?
Lost it all. So.
Yeah, and tactical things like that. Like, even that class, I had another class where we were building businesses and the cameras. We had 4 people. We had to, like, each week was a year. So each week we would make marketing allocations and pricing decisions and management decisions. And then on Monday, it would refresh and tell us how that helped. And I just remember things like that were tactical. I learned tactically. I don't learn by necessarily reading as much. And so that is what made me love businesses. It made me love the investment world while I was in college.